that's where the Buddha talks about objectless samadhi, animitta samadhi. When he's talking about sunyata, when he's talking about this abiding that he discovered, that is voidness. That's just how the mind becomes. It becomes so wholesome and clear and still. You just have to bring up a little bit of joy and calm down, and it just goes back right there. And there's not an object there. There's no object. It's just void. Mind delights in complete letting go, complete release. Actually, the Buddha called this taking release as the object. Taking relaxation or taking release or taking liberation, emancipation as an object. The mind doesn't want an object anymore. What it wants is get rid of all objects. That's the most blissful. So I've been throwing all this material, this Dhamma, and all of this knowledge and terms and things, and tonight I thought I'd give you a break. And maybe tonight it could be your turn. And we'll do like in the olden days, at the time of the Buddha. There was sometimes some questions and answers, just openly like that. There's been a request for it, and I think that's a great idea. Thank you for the idea. Create some openness, a chance to have some dialogue. I know the interviews are good, but they're only 10 minutes, so we can only cover so much. And since this is a full 10-day retreat, which is the format I prefer, we have more time than usual. Usually when you go to busier places in the Western world, people only have 1 week. So you have to squeeze in the retreat in 1 week. So you have a weekend and a weekend and a whole week. And that's 9 days. And then day 1 is day 0, and then the last day is... So you really actually have 7 days. But this is a full 10-day retreat, so we have a bit of room to play, which is my favorite format, by the way, because we actually get to go deeper. And so I invite you, if you forgot your question book, your journal, or whatever it is in your room, you can go get it. Yes, good. Great.
You said something like smiley process, which is the mouth, the eye,
yes.
the mind and the
yes.
heart.
Yes.
I couldn't get within mind and with the heart. Mind and heart, what is it?
Yes.
some taste or something.
Yes.
Mouth and eyes I could get.
Yes.
Mind and heart are the other two things, or what is that?
Yes. Yes. Actually, there's some scientific studies that if you just like imagine a big smile, the mind becomes uplifted. So it's like imagining a big smile in your heart and a big smile in your mind. By the way, that was just Bhante, my teacher, who would say that you smile with your heart, smile with your mind, smile with your eyes, smile a little smile with your lips, a Buddha smile. That's what he would say. And so, it depends on the. Everybody is a bit different. So some people actually imagine really well, some people don't. But really, I think what that means is just at every level you should feel mental uplift. So you should feel like there is that smile, like uplift, like upward movement of the heart, of the mind, like it is uplifted, it is joyful, not excited, but just sukha. So yeah, it's not like a very specific thing. It's just something Bhante would say, just to because a lot of people will say, can I stop smiling because I feel like it's tension in my face and I just want to like relax, and then at that point they're usually like practicing in the further levels of meditation, and we say, yeah, just as long as you're smiling inside, you're happy, you're uplifted, that's okay. I don't have that problem. I'm always smiling, but but that's just me. But I do recommend it to everybody. It's like, well, I don't know. I'm always smiling, so
So I have a few questions regarding the technique, and where does love and kindness come from, the technique, and where will it be practiced? And I assume it's not one of the main Buddhist techniques, and so what are the differences maybe to the main techniques?
The differences to the main techniques. Okay, so where does it come from? Okay. So, well, to give a long story short, I guess I could just say that this is not Buddha's original, by the way. At the time of the Buddha, in the mainstream spiritual tradition of the time, which was Brahmanism or Hinduism, however you want to call it, and it wasn't the Hinduism that we have today exactly. It was similar, but there was a lot less. The Vedas were. Vedanta came later, and all of these scriptures, a lot of scriptures came later, but at the time of the Buddha, it was mainly, the original Vedas. And it was known and understood that Brahma lived in these 4 states. I think I mentioned that earlier, right? So Brahma, or God, lived in these 4 abidings only: loving kindness, compassion, joy or sympathetic joy, and equanimity or poise or calm, steadiness. Well, that's a pretty good place to be. With a body like a universe. With the universe as a body. So basically, that's what Brahma is. So basically, the Buddha just took that, and because these are the highest human emotions that we can experience, basically, in this realm, in this human realm. And if we practice those, then we're headed for a really good place. So that's basically what it is. There are instances in the text where that was one of the first suttas that I read, and really beautiful and impactful sutta where the Buddha recounts one of his past lives as I think it's the Gopalaka Sutta, the Digha Nikaya, the long discourses of the Buddha. And he tells the story when he was a chaplain counseling the king. He was really loved by actually a few kingdoms, and he was just really good at giving good advice for thriving of the kingdom and all that. And at some point he said, he heard that if you were to go for how long? A year in isolation, just practicing loving kindness, just feeling loving kindness for a year or something like that, then you could see and talk to Brahma. And then he decided he wanted to just take leave from all the kingdoms and just go and retire and send love in all directions for a whole year or something like that. And then he did it, and then Brahma appeared at the end, and he asked a lot of questions to Brahma. So the story goes that he just comes back to the kingdom, and he's pretty disenchanted with anything that's got to do with the kingdoms, and he's just like, so I'm going forth, I'm leaving. I'm just gonna practice loving kindness the rest of my life. And he's just like leaving everything behind and basically becoming a monk. And then all the kings, they're like, no, don't do that. And they're like, no, sorry, I'm going. And it's like, okay, give us 7 days, and then we're all going with you. And they all did. And so that's kind of like a story where the Buddha actually really practiced loving kindness to a pretty huge extent. He said at some point he practiced it for 7 years, like a 7-year retreat, I think, during that lifetime. And because of the merits of that, he was a Brahma for, I don't know, like seven times Brahma, and then, or more than that, which the lifespan is like something crazy, like billions of years, and then he gradually came down from that, and he was like other, like very high devas, and anyways. But he said, after all this practice of loving kindness, because he was also the teacher for all of his the people that went forth with him, so he thought, I should actually practice a lot more than my students. So he really pushed it to a noticeable extent. And he said, although I did all this, it brought me to very high spheres of existence, but not to Nibbana, and I came back down, and so I was still, even after all this pretty awesome ride through all of the Devalokas, the Brahmalokas. And so basically the Buddha just took these practices, and he knew how wholesome they were, so he would usually start people with the Brahmavihāras, so that they could actually have an extremely wholesome base. So if I just tell you, like, okay, so you're starting the training, just send love in all directions for like 5 years. Chances are you're gonna have a pretty wholesome mind after that. And of course that's hearing the teachings for 5 years and all of these things. So you're learning even more than that. There are quite a lot of evidence in the Buddha's teachings that he would actually give the Brahmavihāras as meditation instructions, as kind of like a general rule for people who would start. Like there's the advice to Rahula, his son, who's Rahula is a very young member of the Sangha at that point, and Sariputta tells him, he sees him practicing, trying to meditate under a tree, and Rahula doesn't know what he's doing, and Sariputta says, practice Ānāpānāsati, practice mindfulness of breathing, and that will bring a lot of benefit. And so Rahula goes to the Buddha in the evening and asks, so can I have the instructions? And the Buddha actually doesn't give him the instructions in Ānāpānasati right away. He starts with, well, first Rahula, you should practice loving kindness. Then you should practice compassion. Then you should practice sympathetic joy. Then equanimity. And then he says a sequence of practices, and then at the very, very end, he gives them mindfulness of breathing. So the way that I understand this and the way that this practice works is that we clear the slate with loving kindness, and loving kindness will bring up everything. So that's the beauty of it. We can't actually lie. It's like we have to be open. It has to come up. We're gonna have to see what's in the way. And then as we progress through the levels of meditation, the mind is becoming even more purified with this really strong, wholesome base. And to a certain level, when someone experiences and understands the deeper end of the meditation, which would be bare awareness or nothingness, and then neither perception and non-perception, and having that imprint of Nirodha Samapatti or Nibbana, kind of really seeing how the mind is completely conditioned and kind of breaks away from that for a moment. The practice after that is pretty much like Ānāpānasati. There's just going to be just bringing up light joy, because the mind is already so purified. Just bringing up, just relaxing the body, knowing the whole body, relaxing the whole body. Bringing up a light sense of joy, the mind will become really still and really clear again. And basically you just know you're breathing in and out, yeah. But at some point, your mind also won't be interested in it, because why would you put your mind on anything anyways? So, because at that point the mind is just standing there, and it doesn't need an object, it doesn't need anything. And you will know you're breathing for a while, and then until the mind goes into more like the Ārūpa Jhānas, which basically leaves the body behind. And at that point, there might be a slight sense of knowing that there is breathing or not, but that doesn't really matter. In the end, we just want to break away from that and release, relax that. And that's where the Buddha talks about objectless samadhi, animitta samadhi, objectless. When he's talking about sunyata, when he's talking about this abiding that he discovered, that is voidness. That's just how the mind becomes. It becomes so wholesome and clear and still. You just have to bring up a little bit of joy and calm down, and it just goes back right there. And there's not an object there. There's no object. It's just void. Mind delights in complete letting go, complete release. Actually, the Buddha called this taking release as the object. Vossaga Ramana. Vossaga Ramana. Aramana and Vossaga. So taking relaxation or taking release or taking liberation, emancipation as an object. The mind doesn't want an object anymore. It's just what it wants is get rid of all objects. That's the most blissful. I would say that in terms of real like bhavana, like real mental development, this is pretty much it. There is the Brahmavihāras, there is mindfulness of breathing that are like very, very like prominent in the Buddha's teaching. The Brahmavihāras actually come up more often than Ānāpānāsati. In the Majjhima Nikāya, for example, it comes up more often. The Ānāpānasati has a whole chapter in the Samyutta Nikāya though, so the Brahmavihāras don't. It seems like whenever the Ānāpānasati is given, it seems like it's a more advanced context usually. It's either like during Vassa, it's all monks, the Buddha is teaching the monks. The Brahmavihāras is more kind of all around. Of course there's a lot more to this meditative curriculum of the Buddha. I mean, we dedicate our lives to this, so it's quite thorough. There's the Patikula, there's like what is developing the perception of something being repulsive or not repulsive, and then so that there's more equanimity in the mind. For example, after practicing a lot of the Brahmavihāras, sometimes there can be for anybody, but in the monastic training there can be still attraction for sensory pleasure, physical attraction, and all these things. If you have really strong clinging for certain kinds of foods, for example, then you can practice imagining what it looks like in your intestines and all that stuff, all that beautiful stuff. There's some pretty nasty meditation techniques. There's some pretty like cemetery meditations and meditating on like not very nice things that people would think you would want to meditate on. But for me, I personally I don't think that these are that amazing practices anyways. It's more like monastic practices, and anyways the Buddha said that there's been instances in the canon where there's people that really practice these really intensely didn't end up in a good place, so I never really talk about those anyways. And there's some really like not obscure but really sideline meditation practices like the Kasinas, which is nowadays kind of misinterpreted. Kasina means an entirety, like a whole. And so when you read the texts, the original teachings, the Buddha is explaining it in a way that it's a bit more like loving kindness and compassion, like in all directions. You should kind of see, okay, I'll see blue in like everywhere. It's to like open up the mind. But I just feel like, and these are really, it's hard to find in the suttas. There's like three suttas on it, and it's just really a sidetrack kind of. And nowadays it's interpreted as like, because of the emphasis on concentration, absorption, concentration practices, the Kasinas are now believed to be these discs of colors, and then you would place them in front of you and you would like look at it, and you have the earth Kasina, you have the white Kasina, you have the red Kasina, you have all these colors. And basically you would just like look into it for a long time, and then at some point you just like intently focus on it, and then at some point you've focused on it so much that you would close your eyes and you see this blue disc, or you would see whatever the color was that you were looking at, white or whatever it is, and then you keep focusing on that while your eyes are closed, and then animitta will arise, which is like a little light, and then you keep focusing on that, and then it becomes more like a clear full moon, and then you keep focusing, and then at some point, absorption. So there's no more body, there's no more anything, and then you just like in this absorption state. But as I said, this is nowadays the most common understanding of it. When you read the suttas, it's very different. Talks more about feeling, seeing that color in all directions and let it fill basically the whole universe. Yeah. What was the second question? Did I answer it? Okay. I don't know, you tell me. I can talk about these things for a long time, but And the Buddha actually didn't, it wasn't so much about one meditation method, it was a whole curriculum. So we also want to keep that in mind. So just the virtues are part of the training, just even being respectful is part of the training. The way that the monks live, for example, the monastic code that we take on, all the rules, a lot of them are actually helping us grow in these states and give us the right causes and conditions for letting go of our own maybe selfish desires or whatever it would be, and actually serve our community, serve the Sangha. And there's a lot that can be let go too by doing that. In a lot of the suttas, the Buddha just says, abandon the hindrances. How do you do that? Abandon the hindrances. Great. Well, there's just a few ways to do it. That's the thing. But the main goal is to sit down and at some point just you actually purify your mind, let go of the hindrances. It manifests as tension in your body, so you can relax your whole body. That's a meditation instruction that he gave quite a lot in the Satipatthana Sutta and all of the Ānāpānāsati at the very beginning. Be aware of the whole body, tranquilizing the body, calming the body.
I was wondering on this point, why do we have a body?
Why do we have a body?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because in our culture, I would say we really try to connect with the body.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So that's what I was alluding to when I said just be careful or be aware that this comes through proper mental training. And so, okay, when I talk about these more deeper stages of release, I'm implying that people are already very embodied in their lives. So this is not something that comes through as, a disconnect or a disattachment from the body. In fact, to have a very released mind, the Buddha was huge on awareness of the body. And so when one is not meditating, doing everything that people are doing, there will be much more awareness of the body, in fact, because the body's just there. The body's there all the time, but we're not really aware of it because we're so distracted. Because we're so thinking, lost in our minds, lost in our thoughts. And when we practice this path, we have to understand that there's more and more and more awareness of the body as we go. More and more awareness of the body, of sensations, of mind and Dhamma, mental states. But the thing is, I'm just talking about a deeper level of meditation, which meditation is one thing, and then, you know, living an embodied life is also part of what we're doing. The thing is, nowadays in the Western world, we live, well, in the Western world, I'm saying that, but the Western influence of how being so busy, because I mean, I'm teaching in India and Sri Lanka, and it's the same, like this. We say the Western world, but now that Western influence has spread it across the globe of, like, you know, being very busy and technology, and, you know, everybody's got a phone, whether you're in India, whether you're in Sri Lanka, or whether you're in Canada or Germany, and everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a computer, everybody's got, you know, communication are, you know, instantaneous. Your phone is here and the whole world can get in touch with you. I mean, it's awesome, but kind of scary. So at the same time as it's really amazing, and it's brought amazing things to the planet, like, for example, the Buddha's teaching, the suttas, the teachings of the Buddha, the original texts were reserved for only the Sangha before. Like, it was like these palm leaves manuscripts in Sri Lanka that you would like get from the holy library, and you know, you just like, okay, you know, we're studying the text, and it's like very special, and now everybody can read them. Like, millions of people have access to them. So it's amazing, it's beautiful. It also comes with its challenges. And one of them is and the thing is, you know, it's not that the thing is unwholesome or anything. It's just that we're always lost in that, and we're always going to that. And the thing is, it's almost unconscious. And the mind is like, distractions used to be like, all right, kids, let's go in the car and we're just like pack up some popcorn and go to the movie theater. It's gonna take an hour drive, and then it's like this big family outing, and you have to do all these things, and like, oh yeah, we're at the movie theater, but now it's like the movie theater is in your hand all the time, and it's got everything you could think about. Like, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Hindu, whether you like popcorn, whether you like cooking, whether you like, you know, cars, whatever it is, like, it's there. And so we spend so much time, and that's one example, that's the phone. But you know, for me also another huge realization was teaching internationally, and you know, and one day I wake up, I'm in San Francisco, and then a week later I'm in like India, and then after I'm in Australia, and then like the seasons are like completely different, the time zones, and it's just like, okay, this is intense. You know, I need to get some grounding, you know, like so. And these technologies, like taking the plane, you can fly all the way to Canada, you know, it's the opposite side of the planet. It takes 2 trips to go. You have to take a break in the middle, and then you have to take another 12-hour plane. So it's amazing, but it's intense. And if we don't have good roots, then and it tends to pull us away from our roots. So one of the major challenges nowadays is the roots. We're disconnected, and I feel that's why I always was drawn to nature, and I just didn't know what else I wanted to do, because I felt like at least the natural world was kind of solid and anchored and kind of real in that sense. There's that sense of peace, and you go in the forest and you're like, you feel grounded a bit more. And this is not talking about all this light hitting your eyes, especially late at night, messing up your whole biological clock. The big challenge nowadays is to really find grounding. And so when I'm talking about advanced stages of meditations, people sometimes will see it as like I'm talking about disconnection from the body and the mind. But actually, it's just, first we have to come back into the body. First we have to learn some general wisdom of, how do we live our lives? How, what are the cycles that we go through? The circadian rhythms. When the light goes down, our bodies are built to calm down. But if we put a phone on our face for 4 or 5 hours, or a computer, then that light is telling your brain that it's still daytime. And so that's another big problem. And so people have a really hard time sleeping, insomnia is rampant, circadian rhythm is broken. It's not a healthy cycle anymore. So we need to understand these basic things. And actually, at the beginning of my spiritual journey, I spent a lot of time understanding that. Understanding, natural cycles, natural rhythms, because I was a complete mess. And so for me, and I was really interested in the chakras, and because at that time I was really interested in yoga and Hinduism, and I spent a lot of my time grounding myself, working on the Muladhara, working on the ground chakra. Because if you don't have a good ground, then there's nothing. You're cut away. So whatever spiritual work you're going to do, if there's no ground, you can't integrate it. And so that's why I say the Buddha's teaching is perhaps not extravagant, but in compared to more, extravagant spiritual practices, but because the progress is relatively slow and natural, and you can't really go into these states in the Buddha's teaching, in what I've been teaching you. You can't really go into these higher states if you're not actually grounded. So in that sense, that's why I'm just talking about letting go of the body at that point, because it's implied that the ground and the foundation is solid and strong. So yes. But I spent years working on understanding, just that I have a personal dead time for anything that is LCD screen. In the evening after sundown, I have an hour window that I allow myself, that I can just do some stuff on a screen. But then after that, then it's a blackout. I turn off all the lights around me 2 hours before I go to bed, because it's telling my brain to actually, okay, it's nighttime now. There's no light. And then I just meditate myself to sleep, basically. Because it's clearing the mind, it's releasing all the tension or all the agitation that is in the mind. If you start working on something, if you want to sleep at night and you start working just before you go to bed, or like thinking, activating your brain with something, that's the best thing for not sleeping. And messing up your sleep cycle is messing up pretty much everything in your life. I'm really into these new researches that are coming out. Matthew Walker, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a great scientist, great researches being done. Sleep deprivation is the 21st century's disease, you know. It's if we were to actually have healthy sleep patterns and healthy sleep hygiene, he calls it, or that it's called, we would avoid a lot of diseases. We would avoid so many of our problems. Our bodies, you know, we're still like kind of monkeys, you know, so we're still these creatures that live in a natural habitat, and we need specific conditions, and we live in times of great change, so we have to be mindful, we have to be careful. And awareness of the body will always be there in some way. It will be like a background kind of. You will know it's there. At that point, if you want to know body, if you want to feel body, you can just direct your mind and feel it. It's not a big problem. It's always there. Like if a mosquito lands on you, you'll feel it. If an ant crawls on you, if there's wind, you'll feel it. But then as soon as that trigger goes, it won't be there that much anymore, because it's just, the mind is really collected and it's unified. It's just really enjoying the collectedness, and it's resting there, very peaceful. So if there is a feeling of breathing, okay, sure, but the mind won't want to have it as an actual object. It's going to be there in the background, okay, maybe. But if it becomes more than that, then that means that the mind is actually trying to look at it. It's actually trying to do something. And that's just the mind trying to find another distraction. And that's it.
But how do you let go of it?
How do you let go of it?
It's because I notice the same problem that my mind concentrates itself too much, or more as needed on breathing, because of meditation practices that are more breathing concentrated.
Yeah, so for people who have practiced Ānāpānasati before, or like concentration practices, the mind will kind of want to go back to that sometimes. And so it's just a habit. It's just a habit of the mind. And you can actually feel that there will be a slight tension. When the mind is, actually we have a really good exercise we can do now if you want to look at what we're talking about. The difference between a kind of a released open awareness practice and a concentration practice. And so you can take your finger. It's going to take you a finger tonight. We are big expenses. And then put it, I don't know, one finger away from your eyes. And just look at the tip of your nail very intently. And now try to see and adjust your gaze to see the smallest, tiniest little bit of nail at the very top of your fingernail. You'll see your eyes gets adjusted a little bit, and then you can actually find a smaller bit to look at. I'll keep doing this, finding the smallest little thing. Now notice how it feels in your mind, in your head. And now, slowly bring your finger down and look at the whole room. How does it feel in your mind? Let your awareness be fully peripheral. Did you feel the tension go like? Some say yes. Yes. So this is the difference with what we're practicing. Whenever the mind has the habit to go back to a pinpoint, the nostril tips for example, you will be able to feel the tension because the mind is trying to control awareness again. And what we do is completely the opposite. We let go of that. Because what collects the mind is, for us, is the loving kindness, the wholesome states, the joy, and the relax. The mind becomes collected, but not concentrated, not focused. And that's where I say it's like a beautiful, clear crystal, and it has this kind of shape, and it's there, and there's a crystal for sure. There's a unity there, but the light shines through it too, and so it's also luminous, and it's just standing there. Whereas concentration is more like a target, and you're actually like honing down into the bullseye. And so notice the tension when the mind goes back to that. There will be tension because the mind will cramp down again. And that's moving away from what we're practicing. So basically, for us, it's just another distraction. We just treat it as another distraction. You smile, relax. Okay, good. This was meant to be a shorter, lighter talk, so we can maybe shake off the legs, and I don't know what time it is. Yeah, 8:30, and then have an hour sit all together. How does that sound? Or is it bedtime? Yay, bedtime! Okay, bedtime, everybody. Okay, let's share our merits and then we'll just go. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share these merits that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty powers, share these merits of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu.